My name is David Speedy, Director of the Program in U.S. Global Engagement here at the Carnegie Council. The Council provides a forum for vital issues such as the ethics of nuclear disarmament, but we need your help. To guarantee the future of programs such as these, please give generously to the Council's fund drive. Visit carnegiecouncil.org and click on Donate/Join. Thank you.
This corruption, and as much the efforts to conceal the corruption, undermine the rule of law in buying and selling countries, distort the market, pollute the business environment, the political process, and the effective functioning of the state. And I experienced these impacts firsthand in South Africa. I was extremely privileged to serve in the first democratic government in South Africa under Nelson Mandela, where my primary responsibility was the drafting of legislation to create a framework for the managing of public finances. In late 1998, as Nelson Mandela was preparing to step down from public life, and his successor, Thabo Mbeki, had taken over the reins of control of the ANC a few months before being elected president of the country. Mbeki drove a process in which South Africa concluded an arms deal, the costs of which, by the time the contracts are concluded in 2018, will amount to $10 billion. $300 million in bribes were paid to the defense minister, his political advisor, the head of procurement in the South African Defence Force, a number of other senior officials and politicians, and sad to say, just under half of those bribes went to my own political party, the ANC itself. So when I was re-elected to Parliament in 1999 and worked on the national media campaign, little did I know that that election campaign was funded through the proceeds of these bribes. It's also important to note that these deals were concluded at a time when then President Mbeki was telling South Africa that the state could not afford to provide antiretroviral medication to the over 5.5 million South Africans then living with HIV or AIDS. In a study undertaken by the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard, it was conservatively estimated that in the 5 years following this arms deal, 355,000 South Africans died avoidable deaths because the state claimed it could not afford to provide them with life-saving medication. In addition to this human tragedy, in order to cover up the corruption, the leaders of the ANC, many of whom had sacrificed so much and displayed remarkable courage in overcoming apartheid and in building South Africa's first democracy, were prepared to undermine the very democratic institutions they had created in order to prevent exposure of this corruption. In Parliament, where I was at the time the ranking ANC member on the main financial oversight body known as the Public Accounts Committee, when this matter was presented to my committee by the equivalent of the Inspector General in a report, I was called in by the presidency after we'd held our first public hearing on the matter. And I was instructed to close down any parliamentary investigation. I was told that we would deal with the matter internally within the party rather than publicly in Parliament. I refused. I was given the choice of my loyalty to the party I had joined in my teens in a squatter settlement outside Cape Town when it was still a banned organization, and the oath that I'd taken to the South African Constitution when I was sworn in as a Member of Parliament. As I continued to refuse to stop any investigation, I was removed from the committee, but as a Member of Parliament, I was still allowed to go to any committee meetings that I wished to. So I continued to go to meetings of my former committee and to ask questions about this deal and an investigation into it. And something of a pantomime developed, wherein as I would leave the committee room twice a week, there would be 2 government whips waiting for me at the door who would start yet another disciplinary proceeding against me. This continued for a few months before I was informed that in terms of South Africa's 100% proportional representation constitutional system, I would be removed from Parliament. I resigned 2 days before that removal was due to take place and started research for my first book, which dealt with that deal and its impact on South Africa. But it wasn't only Parliament that was undermined. The institution, a key check and balance, has become nothing more than a rubber stamp to the wishes of the executive. They still, in the ANC caucus, refer to being Feinstein for anyone who votes against the party or raises issues that the leadership is unhappy with. Sadly, it happens very seldom.